So again, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining this Spark with our member host, Cooperatives. Pedro, thank you very much for hosting this event on the relationship with the regulator. It's the second part. For the ones who will be attending this event for the first time, the little story behind it is that Cooperatives shared with us last year a presentation on the relationship with the regulator. And it's quite particular, as Pedro might be reminding us today. The Cooperatives is the only cooperative bank in Chile, and the Chilean regulator is putting the challenges with the cooperative banking system, meaning that apparently the cooperative banking system in Chile has to comply even more than the commercial banks. And it was a very interesting presentation last year. And after that, we decided, and with the interest of the Spark participants, we decided to launch a second edition with a particular topic today that you will see later on. So Pedro, thank you again for being with us today, for accepting this second round. Who knows what will come up next year? And the floor is yours, and it's great to have you in our CIBP network and community. Chile and Cooperatives is quite an active member, and it's nice to have these exchanges with you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Many people said that the second part of the movies are always bad, but I will try to do my best to have a good second part. So moving on the theme today. Today I will talk to you about the recent developments in Chile regarding regulation, specifically the new fintech law regulation. As Valeria said, last year I talked about the challenges that all the saving and credit cooperatives in Chile we have. We are a little bit more than 7 under the same regulation, but we are the biggest. This is true. So we are almost the only one. But today we faced a new fintech law in Chile. Specifically, as you know, the fintech is a fusion between the worlds of finance and technology. So there is an entire ecosystem doing and promoting financial innovation, development of new financial services products, of course, to try to benefit the consumer. So today we face with the banks and with us all of these movements in regulation that implies a series of challenges to our functioning. First of all, I would like to appoint that in Chile, the Chamber of Deputies approved last year in October the fintech and open banking bill. So after that, many competitors and many participants in this ecosystem have a role in the system, and of course we think this move on all the players and the manner that we manage many things, starting with try to have a fair competition. We think the regulation is precisely try to keep this on mind and promote the competitive market and prevent the monopolies forming from. Then, of course, the innovation, the fintech regulation should encourage innovation while ensuring the new products and services are safe and secure for the consumer. There is a big cornerstone of this ecosystem. The regulatory coordination, this new law reflects a coordination in the regulatory framework that we have in many spaces. and particularly in the space that we are located with banks, with many cross-border nature of many fintech companies, and coordinated with other regulatory authorities to ensure consistent and effective regulation. Unfortunately, in the other side, we have some cybersecurity risks. The fintech solutions often relied on cloud technology, which introduced new cybersecurity risks. All the banks and us, the cooperatives, must to ensure that their data security measures are robust and enough to protect our clients' personal and financial data. Regarding effectively the data privacy regulations, here there is a very important point, because the implementation of fintech solution might require changes on data management. We are facing that effectively the personal data and the client's data is not only a property right now of the financial institutions. The private information, it's now in hand on other players, and the first complaint that in any countries that they still have a regulation like this, the first complaint is that the manner that these new actors, aside of the regulation, the banking regulation, handle those data, those information. So finally, it summarizes in how we can have consumer protection. Fintech solutions may be designed to provide faster and more convenient services, but they can also create risks that affect the financial well-being of the customers. So all of us, banks and cooperatives, must be aware of this risk and try to ensure that the customer protections will be in the top of our priorities. Having said that, talk a little bit regarding how works the new regulation put in place in Chile. Exists a regulatory framework. This regulatory framework was established for certain technology-based financial services, and of course, until today, or until the publish of this law, they didn't have our own legal framework. Today we already have it. One of the main elements, it's regarding the transaction platforms. Today, the entities that carry the intermediation and custody of the operations have even developed and made available transaction platforms and advice on financial instruments. Today, for example, the compensation chambers will play an important role, and more than that, any new player could play this role. So actually, this infrastructure will be opening to many players to participate in. And of course, this of course is a challenge, because everybody needs to comply with the same standards, but those standards, probably from our eyes or from the banks looking from the banking system, seems to be lower barriers in comparison that we used to. So of course, this is challenging to everyone. More than that, in fact, this includes crypto assets and contracts for differences, which will now be regulated by the Financial Market Commission, which is the banking and cooperative regulator, and must prove compliance with the requirements and that the authority will establish in order to operate in these transaction platforms. Regarding the open fine systems, as you know, the open finance is another big bucket of things where basically it was this framework being created that will allow to other financial services providers to exchange customer financial information. I would like to talk specifically about this when I finish this presentation, talking about an example coming directly from Copeuch. But today it's not weird that some banks, including us, would like to participate in another roles in order to have access to the information that now we will be missing. So that's going to be pretty important, especially if we want to growth in some specific markets. For example, if we want to participate in a good shape in the relationship with the customers, we are interested to participate not only in the credit cards, but in the prepayment cards as well. And today you have a world of opportunities there. Not only for the novelty of the products, because right now the new generations works in the different way. So if you want to catch a part of that interest, you have to be there. So today, for example, in Chile, you have participated on the prepayment cards and many players, that not only banks. So that definitely. And unfortunately, with this law, right now we have a framework that put limits, restrictions, and secure same common base for everyone. This is quite important, especially to effectively close the asymmetry faced by the entrance, but the same asymmetry that we can have in the banking sector if we are not in both sides of the table. So of course this will facilitate at the end of this story development of the new products offerings and of course all the financial services. Talking a little bit more about the established requirements, this, of course, is a very interesting point because the use of crypto assets has been as of way of payment has been recognized formally, so that give us a broader power, especially gives the power of fiscalization to the Central Bank of Chile. So definitely we go up to the waves, and you have two alternatives, or you summarize and put it into the technology, or you assume that the technology didn't exist and try to put the head under the floor. I think Chile decided to move on and make a step on front and try to add to the system formally and try to put some limits. We have several examples in other countries without a formal regulation where some players are indeed more important in the amount of transactions than the central bank. For example, there is a paradox there. Argentina is a good example of that. So then all the normative symmetry it's solved in different laws that regulate the traditional financial entities has been modified to achieve this regulatory symmetry. So certain entry barriers for fintech companies has been reduced. For example, such as the access to the checking accounts, something that it was reserved only for banks, even not for us as a cooperatives. Today is something that at least for the data and the specifically for the data, you can manage in order to achieve the objective to establish this framework. And finally, regarding service providers, the law regulates the payment initiation for the service providers who may provide electronic transfer services for customer accounts to a third-party accounts. So this works as means of payment without a need to use cards. In this way, more competition is generated in the payment market, and consequently, the use of cash is reduced. So we are again we are in the same path of movements with the technology. Remember, at least in Chile, we have one of the highest penetration numbers in terms of use of cell phones and mobile technology. So that obliges you one way or another to adapt to this phenomenon, and we are more than happy today to have some regulation that moves in the same direction with the same address, and so that give us the opportunity to effectively accompany that process. This is regarding the framework. I know that especially for you or all the entities located in Europe, this is nothing so different. Probably we are mind the gap, or in Latin America, Brazil, it's other one with Mexico that were pioneer in regulation about these things. Probably in Chile right now, one of the main differences is to have one framework putting the umbrella to all other issues. In my knowledge, I think these countries have a part of it, not the entire framework, but I would like to talk specifically regarding Cooperatives. Cooperatives continues executing our business plan. We continue in work in our cooperative differentiation, specifically against banks in Chile. For the people who didn't stay in the first part of this SPARK, we have no access to the banking license if being a cooperative. That doesn't exist, the cooperative banks. Here we are a credit and saving cooperative. We compete against banks. We have almost the same regulation, but we are not formally a bank. So one of the things that we will continue working is especially to work in our cooperative identity. But more related with the theme that we are discussing today, it's complete our offer of financial products and services, and here's the part connected with the fintech environment. Presently, because in Chile we started to participate in the prepaid credit card. Our prepaid credit card calls Dale Copeuch, which is surrounded in the red circle there. And but the novelty here that was in a couple of years ago, we bought the activity directly from a fintech. So we merged with a fintech and put it into the Copeuch ecosystem. That was the first M&A deal between a financial institution and a fintech in Chile. So we were pioneer on that. Probably here, Valeria and Brigitte, we need more time to talk about this case study if you want. But basically was a hit in Chile because that allowed us to start to compete in this industry, being a non-banking institution as a first place. Today, that gave us a very good position. Right now, our card is in the top of mind ranking inclusive from above or other banking prepaid cards, because effectively we start with an agility and we put on front of this process in a very early stage. So this is an example how you can. I'm not saying that you have to buy all the fintechs that are surrounding. No, that was the way that we choose. But the thing is, if the financial institution, the cooperatives and banks indeed start to participate in this ecosystem, depending, of course, all the framework regulation that every country has. Every country have. So specifically, you can participate being or collaborating or forming or acquiring a fintech and participating in this ecosystem, managing the data that you can create there, and of course, in our case, trying to definitely fulfill the space to offer to our members the most possible crowded financial services available for them. So of course that goes in our case in the last part of our strategy, which is to gain in a scale. That is something that we have been working for several years in Chile. And of course, all of this strategy goes in that direction. I tell you that because to understand, it's good to understand why we're doing something, why it's an important the establishment of this framework regulation. As a different of the first part here, I'm not appointing about a problem here. It's a benefit to all the system to have clear rules to everybody, and my idea and my point here today for all of you is try to put the idea of what are the advantages and the benefits that everybody can catch if you accommodate and move forward with the regulation that like this. Of course, if you had the opportunity to participate in the early discussions with the regulators, is something good, because you have to do the opportunity to put on front and prepare for this. This is a process that you cannot deny, and probably we will continue moving forward in all the geographies. Said that, I think I'm on time. Ready for the Q&A.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pedro, for the energy, the timing, and to explain your reality. And I see a lot of applauses, so it's also always nice to have nice gratification. There are already some questions on the chat. And a person also raised his or her hand. So let's start with the question on the chat. It comes from Raul from Desjardins. Raul, would you mind to ask the question directly to Pedro?
Of course. Good morning. Thank you so much, Pedro, for the presentation. It was very, very interesting. I would like to ask, fintechs in Latin America face the challenge of educating users about digital financial services and how to make advantage of them safely and responsibly. Is there anything in the new regulation in Chile about digital literacy and financial education?
Formally in the regulation, no. No, but it's something that it's a very good question, because we have been an important player with a couple of another institutions, probably Carlos inclusive better than me to talk about this, but we have been working a lot in financial education, precisely because as you know, we have an important social role as a difference of many banks. If we talk about ESG ratings, you can confirm the same. In our social role, we play a very important function regarding financial education. It's something that we have been working several years, I would say. Suddenly and formally, there's no describe as my understanding in the new regulation in a formal way. But it's something that I think most of the financial institutions have been worked.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raul, for this interesting question and connecting, of course, regulation with financial education as it keeps evolving, right? So thank you for the question, and also our cooperative values is about inclusion. There's a hand raised by Carlos. Is this possible? Carlos, the floor is yours.
Just hi everyone. Just a short thing to add or to complete what Pedro said. In Chile, our regulator asks every institution to have a kind of program in education, in financial education. So every institution has its own program, and because of that, we as a cooperative will have a kind of surprise about this topic, because we are really close to launch our program, which is called Cooperative Educa. And you know that we are working in something in this environment, I mean this portal. So just I wanted to share with you that we are very happy, we're very pleased, because this program is finally coming to an end, and its launching will be very soon. So just I want to add that we are very happy because of that.
Right.
So this is only for you, huh?
Thank you for clarifying this. Again, it's important, and we have seen in one of the earliest Spark this year, there was a collaboration with France and Brazil between the BCE and CIBP about how important financial education is and what are the programs that both countries are developing. Are there any other questions or remarks that someone in the room would like to ask to Pedro, or to contribute with his or her own experience regarding fintechs, for instance, the relationship with fintechs? Don't hesitate to put also your questions on the chat if you are shy. I know Raul is not shy, so that's why I invited him to.
Oh, everything was clear.
Everything was clear. Something maybe that from our side, I have a small question or precision. You said something interesting at the end. Everything was interesting, but what catch my attention is, of course, this. Everyone knows that there are competitors, and that so the cooperative system and the banking system in Chile doesn't hold the data, is not owner of the data, and it's very important to protect the data of your customers. So this is something that I would be interested to know if this is the case in the other countries. So this is a question for the group, because indeed data is the GOAT, of course, nowadays. So who holds, it's like the water, who holds the water has power. So this is just a remark, and what would be the position of cooperative banks regarding that. So a provocation to the group and something to think of. And then more for you, Pedro, with your experience, you also said that when new regulations are set up in your countries, it's important to be with to be able to negotiate or to discuss the regulation directly, to be involved directly. How has been the experience with you on that? Have you been able to have you been invited, or did you have to knock at the door? How did it go?
We have in Chile, I assume, in generally speaking, all the regulation regarding banking system, and we are part of the banking system, always is discussed in advance for the regulator, because they know, they are very conscious about the financial stability. They cannot say one day to the other, this is a new rule and everybody wants to have to complain. And after that, you have, of course, a very prudential windows of time to put in place. So basically, it's a market practice here in Chile, and at least for banks, for pension funds and life insurance companies, is very common and well known that all the regulation is discussed previously and with the players. So everyone is just you need to have the disposal to participate in the discussion. You cannot participate, of course, but I think, and in that sense, Carlos, correct me, but Cooperatives always has been very active to push and to try to move the borders and the limits every time that we have the possibility.
You're right, Pedro.
Thank you for the answer. Does anyone else have a complementary question or remark again for Pedro? Oh, I have my little mobile phone, so I have to switch on the buttons to see if there are some hands raising, because I prefer to see the faces, to be honest.
It's not an earthquake. Huh?
Yes. Bon, okay. Maybe a last question then, again from our side. Has Cooperatives been thinking on acquiring a fintech directly, maybe? Because some banks in Europe have done so. Some cooperative banks have had discussions with them, or we know that some of our members are also are completely digitalizing their system to be in the same market of the competitors. So the question is, this a plan in the future for Cooperatives? And I see you smile, so maybe I should take back my question.
No, I will take advantage that Carlos is here, and I will pass him directly right on.
No, thank you, Pedro. Well, Valeria, we are always looking for new opportunities, and of course, in Chile there are, I would say, a huge ecosystem of fintechs, and because the new regulation that Pedro spoke in the chat, I think that maybe there are some opportunities, or I would say that if we have a good, or if we see a good opportunity to acquire one, maybe it's in the folder of acquisitions. But of course, there is some regulation issues that could make that a kind of tricky thing. But like Pedro said, we are always pushing our limits. We are always pushing the regulation. And I would say that as a goal, we don't discard to acquire fintech if that fintech is useful for our strategy. So they're always in our mind. But maybe the regulation could be a kind of obstacle to do it, but it is in our path. We don't discard to buy a fintech if we think that with that fintech or that fintech could be useful for our strategy. So it is in our strategic plan.
Thank you, Pedro. Carlos, sorry. As I have Pedro in you're in my mobile phone. And there's a last question, if everyone agrees, from Raul. And again, thank you for being curious. What has been approximately the timeline for Chile to have a new fintech regulation today? A good question.
Good question. I don't know exactly. The only thing that I could tell you is last time that we discussed the banking law, we were 10 years, just to give you an idea. But the fintech law, the discussion was a pretty shorter time. I'm not completely sure when we started, but I assume it was a period much shorter. The pandemic affect all of these timelines, so that's the reason why I didn't have clear on my mind how much time was effectively.